Hello and welcome wherever you are joining us from. Absolutely delighted to have you here today, listening to colleagues from across the sector talking about employability and the importance of that in relation to student success. Some very small housekeeping just to start off with. We do kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted unless you're asked to share, and that just reduces background noise and the chances of our speakers being interrupted. The event today is being recorded, and recordings of the sessions will be circulated to you after the event. We've got 3 speakers from the sector, and what we're going to do is allow them all to present, and then we will take Q&A. So at any time, please do post your questions in the chat function, and we will monitor that and put those 2 colleagues towards the Q&A session of this webinar. If you experience any technical issues whatsoever, please do contact Lucy Robinson via private chat, and Lucy will do her best to assist you. So by way of an introduction, my name is Stuart Norton. I'm the Head of Educational Excellence at Advanced HE. Absolutely delighted to be here and chairing this session. We have fantastic presenters from across the sector. Bev Herring, Head of Careers and Employability at Aberystwyth University. Dr. Nabil Kadhi, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Development at the Applied Science University from Bahrain, and Bridie, Killoran and Maura, Fallon from Atlantic Technological University in Ireland. So some fabulous presentations coming your way, lots of different ways of looking at employability and how to tackle it. And the one thing which I'll say, and I'm sure colleagues on this call know well, there is no one single answer. And if there was a simple answer to it, we'd all be doing it already. But what we do know is that employability is one core thematic area of student success that can impact positively on students' trajectories. And in terms of the frameworks, this is kind of where we've rooted this. And before I hand over to our invited speakers, I wanted to briefly contextualize the talks today around the framework for embedding employability, which is where the title of this webinar has come from. So employability, as you can see on your dial, is one of 9 key framework areas that forms the overarching student success. And these have come out over the last 24 months. Their provenance is actually over a decade old. These are being updated, refined and refreshed as we continue to work together to enhance student success for the sector. The frameworks are not prescriptive. I think that's really, really important. And you'll hear today from colleagues from 3 different countries and how they tackle employability, and actually the contextualization and their geographic location is critical to that. But what they do is provide a shared point of reference and a common language to enable discussion, the shaping of policy, the development of process and practice around the broad and complex issues that impact student success and employability. These frameworks are freely available, and on the next slide, there is a QR code which will take you straight there to the series, specifically the one on employability. All of the frameworks are structured in the same way. Students at the centre, and then within the spheres of influence, educators plus, and then the institution. Educators plus is an exceptionally important term because when we refer to educators, we're not just talking about academics in a lecturing environment, we are talking about everyone who has that opportunity to educate students. So careers professionals, third space professionals. And this is really, really important to consider. The framework for employability at the institutional level promotes a whole institution approach to creating a vision and culture of shared responsibility in the development of those policies and practices which support students. So every segment there of that pie has come out from the literature and the literature review. As well as the grey literature and our sector engagement in terms of the core areas that are important to consider at an institutional level, in terms of providing that space and also the resource for innovative and inclusive learning environments. I think it's fair to say that not one of these frameworks sits alone. It's those nodes of intersect that are absolutely important. And you can see here on the Educators Plus authentic assessment, how can you do that without looking at the assessment and learning framework, inclusive opportunities in terms of EDI, career development learning, in terms of our third space professionals. But what they do is act as that benchmark. They can provide that collaborative engagement and that resource to help you identify and recognise that professional development for staff as well as students, fully linked to the professional standards framework as well. In terms of students, they are responsible for their own employability too. This isn't about doing something to someone, it's about how we work in co-creation and co-partnership and allowing for that contextual understanding and how they can bring in all of that wide variety of life-wide learning as well as lifelong learning to their university experiences and the studies that they are doing. So that is enough from me. I hope that gives a brief kind of introduction as to what we are doing. I'm going to stop sharing my slides now, and I'm going to hand over to Bev, who will give you our first presentation. So just a brief reminder of the format, roughly 10 minutes per presenter. Any questions, please do pop them in the chat and we'll take Q&A at the end. Bev, I can see your screen, so that all looks to be working, and I shall hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks very much, Stuart, and welcome everyone. So my session's entitled Transformative Third Space Collaborations. And to introduce myself, my name is Bev Herring, alongside my role as Head of Careers and Employability at Aberystwyth University. I am also an avid advocator, I would say, of the Embedded Employability Third Space professional, playing this out across a range of wider roles as co-chair for our All Wales Employability Community of Practice, and as part of the AGCAS, which is the Association of Graduate Careers and Advisory Services, National Integrated Employability Working Party. So my roles then have helped to raise the profile of third space professionals and the diversity and the richness that working collaboratively brings to the future of teaching and learning practice. I aim to share some of my experience with you briefly today. So, guided by the advanced HE frameworks, and in particular the Embedded Employability Framework, Educators or Educators Plus encompasses academic, careers professional, and beyond, to be defined as one. So it brings us all together under that one defined title. In the educator space, employability allows us to work seamlessly together. It allows us to integrate knowledge with practice, to draw on each other's expertise, and enrich and enable our students to grow both in confidence and resilience, but also to be career ready. I'm very proud that Aberystwyth, some of you may have seen, featured as one of the happiest places to live in the UK in The Guardian this weekend. But I'm also particularly proud of our institution because we're doing a lot of really good work around the collegiacy and around collegiacy generally and employability. And back in February 2024, we launched our new University Employability Plan, which was very much an institution-wide plan with 5 priority areas that supported collaborative working. So just to run through briefly those different areas, priority 1 was to embed employability, enterprise and skills development across all of our curricula, to strengthen our connectivity with our alumni and our employers, to ensure that work-integrated learning becomes part of every student experience, to tailor supports and initiatives to meet diversity within our student cohort, and to ensure that we are emerging, future thinking, and that caveat that I said around being institutional in our approach. So since this time, we've introduced our institutional strategy. In fact, we introduced this last week, and I'm really pleased to say that employability features across all of the 9 plans which are part of this. But most prominently, it features within our education and student experience plan. So there are 3 priorities within the new institutional strategy, and priority 1 makes a very clear commitment to ensure that employability and enterprise are embedded in everything that we do, both within our curriculum, but also across the student journey. So all of the interactions that our students can expect, employability will be highlighted as one of the key elements of development that will be part of their game. And with that, there's been a range of redesign and restructure in our staffing within our service. So careers have become the Careers and Employability Service with dedicated members of staff working across curriculum, but also within our faculty structures, where we now have associate pro-vice chancellors for education and student experience, where this priority aim is one of their key focus areas going forward. So that's a bit about my institution. I really would be keen to pick that up with anyone who has any questions and go into more detail. But looking at a regional level, I have had the privilege of working with Stuart and the Advanced HE team alongside my colleague, Professor PFHEA, who is the Associate Pro-Vice Chancellor for Employability at Bangor University, in establishing the MEDA-supported All Wales Employability Community of Practice. So this community of practice has really been a groundbreaking collaborative engagement opportunity that has enabled us to bring together all of the Welsh HEIs and associated colleges to make some serious headway in the field of embedded practice. We have over 100 members actively engaging with this group, and it allows us to bring together the academic and the professional community. Some of our key outputs have been our 3Es, Employability, Enterprise and Entrepreneurship Symposia series that will reach 8th in the number of dedicated days that we have been able to allocate to explore themed aspects of our integral work across this area. So really being able to take ourselves out of our day-to-day space to explore some of the key issues and advancements really in these areas across our institutions. And it's been really open as well, which has been great. And there's been a lot of network and friendship building and interaction that's been an output from that. I'll talk a little bit more about that now. So these sessions, as I said, have been highly informative, allowing space and time to dedicate considered thought and debate to future possibilities. It's enabled us to learn from each other, and there's a lot going on across the region. And building on that connectivity, we've been able to produce a range of publications. So some time back, we put together a compendium of case studies around enterprise, entrepreneurship and employability, and the activity that is going on within the curriculum across the institutions. Sorry, I just moved that one off. We've also collaborated on a QAA-funded research project around what are the key attributes of a Welsh graduate and how can we foster the development of these more in our practice. And more recently, we have been successful in attracting some further funding, which has enabled the group to establish 2 task and complete groups, which are made up of academic and careers professional staff, to look at 2 key areas for us, which are employability and language, how the language of employers plays out through degree programs and how we can make more alignment through the activities that we embed within our practice, and looking at ethical and sustainable employability and how universities are meeting that challenge through embedded practice. Other themes that we've looked at have been resolving wicked problems across the 3E spectrum, looking at third space working, stakeholder engagement, and yeah, as I mentioned, future-proofing our Welsh graduates and ethical and sustainable employability. So this has been really fantastic to be part of this. We're around 18 months into it. And as I said, you know, there's been a huge amount of activity, and it's been thanks partly to the support we've had from Advanced HE and the funding support from MEDA, who are our Welsh funding bodies. So then finally, I'm just touching at national levels. As part of the AGCAS Integrated Employability Working Group, we are responding to survey responses that show that 67% of career service leaders expect to do more embedded employability going forward. So that's a huge focus on career services and their delivery around this space. We're also responding to feedback from our membership, who said they would appreciate more support and opportunities for professional development related to curriculum design, to interpreting data, influencing change and implementing change. And our membership is not only made up of careers professionals, but also lots of academic colleagues are also now members of AGCAS too. And I'll mention how you can access resources if you can't already from your own institution in a moment. So thinking about our role as advocates for third space working, and some of the aspects that have arisen, we have decided to focus our work on three priority areas. We've introduced best practice resources, and one of those is to develop and launch an integrated employability toolkit. And this includes resources such as auditing your existing curriculum, designing a new education, evaluating your impact, leveraging your internal committees to achieve change, understanding your stakeholders, and a typology to help you consider different structural approaches, alongside many case studies and deeper dives of best practice. We've also looked at reviewing our professional service offer and have been able to develop new focus courses around embedding, alongside offering free membership webinars. So we are looking to run these every month. Up to now, we've offered one on integrating employability, what type suits you, collaborative integrated employability academic perspectives, where we had a range of universities and academic staff talked about their interaction with careers professionals to develop integrated employability within their modules or their course delivery, and boosting integrated employability with data-driven curriculum delivery. So, a key aspect of our work is being able to use data in a clear way that informs our delivery, and so we're having the most impact. We're also looking at raising the profile of our expertise by seeking out different ways that we can bridge boundaries between academic and professional domains. And one of these has been our launch of the AGCAS Academic Employability Awards this year, where we received over 250 nominations from across a range of universities, both large and small, and from all of the devolved nations. So it really was a rich resource of applications, but also case studies and insights into the great work that's happening across the UK in this space. And we'll be looking at developing those with the support of those who have submitted those applications into further case studies that can be published at a later date. We also recognise that there are many other organisation spaces, etc., working within the third space to support our collaborative working, and we work in particular with the Institute of Experiential and Skills-Based Learning, and their focus on seeking to address challenges around delivering experiential learning at scale. And we also continue to work alongside Advanced HE. So as I mentioned, if you're not a member of AGCAS, so perhaps you're an academic colleague who's on the call today, your university is likely to be an AGCAS member. Most career services within universities are. If you get in touch with your team, they'll be able to add you to the member site, and you will have free access of all of our resources. So just get in contact with them and they'll be able to have your name completely free of charge. So this is the final slide then, and hopefully, Stuart, you'll appreciate this Lego Duplo picture that I've utilised as I sum up my brief whistle-stop tour of some of the areas of development where I am heavily influential and actively involved. Despite these huge steps, though, I would say there is still much to do to build momentum across our third space working, particularly at institutional level and around career trajectory, where some of us might thrive very easily, but for others, sometimes it can be quite a tricky space to navigate. So yeah, really looking at how we can make advancements to take that forward a bit more and get that recognition really that it solidly deserves. So that's it from me. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and experiences in the Q&A, and I'll hand over to my colleagues and stop sharing.
Thank you, Bev. Fantastic overview there. And for colleagues on the call that perhaps don't know me, I enjoy Lego Serious Play as a communication method for enhancing all things. In fact, last week I was fortunate enough to be at a mental health and wellbeing conference using Lego Serious Play. But our next guests, Maura and Bridie, Bridie knows well that I've used Lego Serious Play for enhancing employability as well. So there is the in joke there for those that perhaps don't know. I can still see your screen, Beck.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I lost my stop button as well. Bridie, if you share
Yeah.
yours, it might just knock it
Can
off
you just take it off
automatically.
me, Bridie? Is
Okay,
that
well,
possible?
no, it's telling me I cannot share the screen because it's already been shared.
Oh, it's come. It's okay. I've stopped.
Perfect.
Oh, right.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bev.
Okay, so I'll share mine now, hopefully.
Colleagues, just while Bridie's screen is coming online, please do remember to post any questions to any of our presenters in the chat. So any questions for Bev, pop them in the chat now, and we will collect them all, and we will have those Q&A session after Bridie and Maura's and also Dr. Nabil's presentations. Your screen is working perfectly, Bridie, so I shall hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Stuart, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bridie Killoran. I am the Atlantic Technological University Careers and Learning Pathways Manager, big title. Calling you from Galway, and we're delighted to present to you today. I'll just pass over to my colleague.
Hi everyone, lovely to meet you all. Also from Galway, my name is Maura Fallon, and I am one of the Career and Learning Pathways Advisors with my Career Path ATU.
That's lovely. So I'm going to cover out on some of the slides initially, and then I'm going to hand over to Maura. So hopefully we can keep in the 10 minutes, Stuart. So we're going to kind of talk to you today about a project we were involved in. It's called My Career Path, and we're focusing on supporting inclusive employability for learners. So our agenda is just going to give you a little oversight of the project, the rationale behind the project, the employability tool that we used, and the transversal skills micro-credential that came from this project, and the overall impact and demo. So we can share the slides with you, but we can also, if anybody wants to link in with us afterwards to give a demo, we can do that if people are interested. So just an overview of the Atlantic Technological University. It really was where three main institutes of technology came together in 2022 as a university. And as you can see from the map there, we span from Galway right up to the northwest. So it's the west northwest of Ireland. It's a very beautiful place. And we have 9 main campuses. We have 27,000 students. And obviously we're going through a very major transition phase that Stuart would be aware of, because when we did this employability initiative with Advanced HE, we were also coming together as a new university. So lots of change happening within our university. So the project that I'm just going to highlight today, as I said, was My Career Path. And it had an internal focus as well as an external focus. But for today, I wanted to choose something that was a little bit different and innovative from what we did. And it was really looking at career development, recognition of prior learning, supporting people in the workplace, embedding employability into these pathways. And as I say, the focus was very much around workforce upskilling and reskilling in our region. So a lot of the rationale came from this, and the support came from this financially through funding from the government. It was the challenges of our region around, talent shortages, attracting talent to the region, sustained organizational growth for companies. So the idea of embedding employability was really to highlight how employability can help learners develop future focused skills. So as I say, it was very much focused on the external stakeholder and professionals. So just in terms of, we were very much guided by the framework, the Advanced HE framework for embedding employability. And just looking, I suppose, at the key lenses there that sit well with this particular project. From the institution lens, it was fostering and developing the relationship between institutions and both external and internal stakeholders. From the learner-student lens, it was identifying core components to help develop a shared and common understanding of employability. And from the educator lens, providing a resource that can identify and recognise professional development needs and requirements. So that's kind of just putting a little bit of perspective around the framework that would have informed what we did. So when we were developing these learning pathways, you know, we were wanting to speak to people in the workplace and to get them to re-engage with higher education. So it was focusing around that open mindset to learning and why it was in their best interest to do so, bring that awareness of their knowledge, their skills and experiences by increasing their self-esteem and self-efficacy, having that career readiness and the idea of sustainable employability throughout their lifetime and having that future focus on skills. So very much focused around the lifelong learning and professional growth. So we used also a tool for measuring, you know, learners' employability, and you probably recognise the DACA, Pool and Sewell framework. And we liked this as well because it informed what we did, and we were able to use the measurement tool on our platform. But also it was practical, and we were kind of, you know, we found this kind of easy to translate in terms of how we looked at employability and what were the key elements of employability. And Maura is going to talk a little bit more about this now in a while. And as I say, the customized pathways that we developed, it was focusing on increased engagement in their career development for people in the workplace. So understanding career opportunities within the organization, having that increased confidence, you know, to develop a career path and a plan for themselves, increased engagement with self-development. And this is what we were hearing all the time from HR professionals and L&D managers. They also, you know, one of the remit, like I highlighted earlier, it was very much about having the increased engagement with internal opportunities within the organization for the upskilling, retention and succession planning challenges that L&D managers had. So you can see some of the outcomes of our project were a supported career plan, a teaching and learning plan, we had online learning, we had recognition of prior learning, and we had one-to-one mentoring. And this will become a little bit more obvious now in my next couple of slides. So when we started the project, which was in the end of 2021, the first thing was designing the pathway and what we wanted people to experience, you know, for this online program. So the very first thing was engaging with the learner in the workplace. And when I show you kind of the personas we developed, and this is why we developed them, we needed to speak to the learner in the workplace and have that engagement. We also needed to integrate recognition of prior learning. So they were going to get value for their experiential learning and their learning that they had in the workplace. And we also incorporated some digital tools to help them align their applications with learning outcomes of programs and get exemptions, etc. for that. The career guidance and employability was a really key part for that engagement. And as I mentioned, sustainable employability and having that one-to-one support. Then what we had is choosing the correct course for them, and we embedded like micro-credentials and these short pieces of learning into it. We had an e-learning hub on the platform, so if there was gaps in people's learning, that helped to build their confidence. And they were mentored through that with their careers advisor and RPL coordinator. So the employability measurement piece, we measured employability at the beginning of the program, at the end, again, putting that all in context about why they were doing this. And then there was the program completion. So that was kind of how we designed them. So it was very much around career development, career advice, recognition of prior learning, and micro-credentials. These were the three elements that we incorporated into the pathways. So just in terms of then, you can see here on the right-hand side of the slide were the personas that we designed. So we had new beginnings, so somebody just starting off in their first job, maybe they dropped out of college. Then we had career accelerators. This is typically a graduate starting on their career. We had mastery paths. This is somebody who is, you know, mid-career, who now is looking for a challenge, a new challenge or a new change. Dream builder, somebody who has achieved a lot in their career but wanted to go back in and re-engage with higher education for a passion learning area that they have. And then finally, the entrepreneur path, somebody who wanted to start their own business. So there were the key personas that we thought we typically present and meet in the workplace. And from that, then we developed a 4-stage program. So the initial stage was starting blocks, the reflective space. This is where the learner looked in, they looked at themselves, understand what is employability? What does it mean to me? What is my strengths? You know, how do I understand my personality? How do I understand my experience to date? The second stage then was the research space. And this is where we brought them to some programs on our platform where there may have been gaps. The third stage then is preparation phase. So this is where they would have prepared their RPL portfolio. This is where they, prepared their toolkit in order to move forward. And then the final stage was their career development plan with their SMART goals. So the key elements of this was very much, as I said before, attracting the learners, recognition of prior learning, which is really important, because we all know this exists, but very often somebody in the workplace doesn't know what the recognition of prior learning is and how to navigate that. The dual approach was nice because we had to blend it. So, the careers advisor would meet at different stages with the learner, and we had the online program. There was good flexibility in offerings, and then we had a systematic approach through the pathway. So this is just an example of how we started building these personas and these programs. So we looked at each of the personas and we asked, who are they? So like I said, this is an example of a graduate. So they recently completed their degree, kind of just starting off as an employee. They have significant experience and maybe need qualification to progress. What do they bring to the table? They bring their experience, knowledge, skills, the employability piece, sense of fulfillment and achievement. What do they need? Support in gaining employment or promotion or exploring career directions or finding a postgraduate course. And then what are the supports that we offer on our pathway? So there is how we kind of analysed each of the personas. So I'm just going to hand you over now to Maura, and she's just going to bring you through the first starting blocks phase. And this is where we integrated the employability piece.
Perfect. Thanks, Bridie. Thank you. So as Bridie has shown there, our pathways, the framework, we have a 4-step program. So for the purpose of today, we're going to focus on starting blocks, as Bridie said, that inward looking piece. So this is where we have embedded employability into the pathway. We've identified employability as one of the key elements of development. So when we meet when I meet with the client, at this very first stage, they will take the assessment, the employability measurement assessment, and then they retake this assessment, as you can see there in the last phase. And that's a really positive piece for the client because they can see how their confidence has increased from the very start of the program to the very end of the program. These are just a very quick slide on some of the assessments that we have built into our pathways. The Career Edge, which is the employability measurement tool. From that employability tool, we went on and designed a transversal skills module, which I'll go into in a little bit more in a moment. And then we have a lovely positive psychology strengths assessment where key strengths for the client are identified. So the clients are rated on the 5 pillars of employability: career development and learning, experience in life and work, degree, subject, generic skills, emotional and cultural intelligence. They are given a score, and then the 3 areas that need the most development are identified. There's a very detailed report that comes with this, and from the areas that have been identified as needing further development, the clients then are directed to a program of development in those key areas. So it generates analytical real-time reports, employability reports that are of huge value, huge benefit to employers, to clients, and to the university. Here you can see an example of what a report would look like. So these are the key competencies and skills. You can see there whether they're in the green, which means that they're well on their way to becoming proficient in those areas. So it's all very, very step by step. The clients follow the program as directed through. Here's a nice graphic of what the client will see in their report. You can see here the scores in each of the 5 main pillars, and then it just shows them then which areas they need to further work on. So the employability pillars, as I've mentioned, they're there: the transversal skills, degree, experience, cultural and emotional intelligence, and career planning. And what we're finding is that these are so impactful in the work we're doing with employers, the work we're doing with the industry. There's especially now a huge emphasis on the likes of cultural and emotional intelligence. So we are building those into the pathways when we're working with our clients. And out of all this work that was done, we designed a transversal skills micro-credential. So here you can see on the left-hand side the 12 transversal skills identified by the World Economic Forum as being very, very important. So once one signs up to that micro-credential, they follow a program and develop their skills in those 12 areas. It's a 5-credit micro-credential. It's a 15-week module, and there's a digital badge upon completion. And they learn and they gain mastery in 3 of those transversal skills. So this has been embedded into the university and has been very impactful in the work. Overall, just the program when we're working with clients, 15 weeks, 7-hour commitment per week. It's very much self-directed, independent learning, self-paced. There is an academic tutor who will meet with the learners and discuss their progress as they're working through. The initial onboarding takes place through Teams, and there's activities to complete in advance of that weekly meeting with the tutor. So we're finding some really positive, impactful results from this. So you can see there the 5 steps, and step 1 is where they rate themselves, moving on to that reflective piece, moving on to explore the pathways, their action plan, where they complete a personal development action plan to improve 3 of their skills, and then positioning themselves for success, where we also encourage them to engage with STAR technique, CV Builder, CV 360, and our excellent Interview 360 AI-enabled tool. So all of that together really develops the employability. We've had some really excellent feedback, and I'm just going to share some of that really positive feedback with you. We surveyed learners who had completed the program a year to 2 years ago, and you can see some of the key outcomes include improved retention, stronger leadership pipelines, and increased productivity. And over again, we're hearing words like confidence and motivation, taking on new challenges, leading initiatives, and overall team performance has improved. Some more feedback. On the left-hand side, some of the many companies we have worked with, and there was a different focus attached to each ask. So for Medtronic, it was very much empowering the employees, giving them, equipping them with skills and knowledge and awareness of opportunities, and encouraging them to go for that promotional piece. We very much focused then on the feedback that we're getting. And if you look there on the right-hand side, you can see that certain words are repeated over and over again. Confidence, clarity around my strengths, clarity around my career planning, being able to make informed key choices. And then overall, it has been identified as a key measurement tool in that employability piece. Again, some more really, really positive feedback from previous learners around clarity around my next steps, clarification of my strengths. It's identified as a powerful self-reflection tool. And I suppose working together, that whole piece when it comes together, aided by the one-to-one career mentoring, has proved to be hugely successful, and we're continuing to work and get some really positive results with companies within the university and with our learners. Overall, we've had over 1,000 logins. And
Sorry,
we've had 3,500 users, over 25,000 logins, and we've measured to the back end over 110,000 activities have been used by our learners. And again, as Bridie has said, we're very happy to go through this in a little bit more detail and perhaps even demo what this model would look like, what it front-facing, what it looks like for the learner. Okay, that's my whistle-stop tour. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I'll stop sharing now because I think
Thanks,
we've probably
Bridie.
gone over the 10 minutes. Sorry, Stuart.
That's fine, Bridie. Thank you, Bridie. Thank you, Maura. Really interesting there as well. Thank you for your questions. Please do keep them coming. I'm now going to hand over to Nabil, Dr. Nabil. Dr. Nabil, would you like me to share the video?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. First, I'm sorry for the slight delay. I was in a back-to-back meeting.
Not a problem.
Please. So if we can start from there by sharing the video, and then I will add some comments on it.
At Applied Science University, we are very pleased to have the joint experience with Advanced HE by adopting the Employability Skills Framework. This year than today, we engaged in sessions of training to our faculty members and academic staff and decision makers in order to establish and define the employability skills of our program. Since then, we started first by identifying the 7 or 8 employability skills that are considered as core and very important for each program. After that, these employability skills have been mapping with the program component with the different modules by identifying the level of contribution to the acquisition at the student level. Every module can contribute to many employability skills, initiating them, reinforcing them, or allowing the students to master them. From these matrix where gaps have been identified, we are proudly introducing today our employability skills fingerprint for each program, in which every course is mapped with the various employability skills, and we can see the level of contribution and the percentage of contribution of every module to the acquisition of each employability skills. Not only that, we were able to identify the most appropriate activities that are to be embedded inside the classroom or in the extracurricular activity. With Advanced HE adapting the framework, we are proudly having today a really well-tailored employability skills, making our students and our graduates ready for a dynamic market. The implementation of the Advanced HE employability skills framework allow Applied Science University to follow and adhere to the recommendations and guidelines and rules of the Higher Education Council where it comes to the employability skills. This is in fact allowing us to make sure our graduates are equipped with the right employability skills. We are not only following their progression, but also assessing the level of acquisition of these employability skills, and such allow us to suggest for them tailored and personalized sessions, certificates, and extracurricular activities to make sure that our graduates are ready for the market as per the guidelines and regulation of the Higher Education Council. Thanks Advanced HE, and thanks our staff, academic staff and faculty member for your amazing work to make this journey a success. Here at Applied Science University, Bahrain.
Thank you, Stuart. So what I wanted to add is the framework and the set of sessions of training allowed us to align many stakeholders. We have been able to let faculty members, academic decision maker, alumni office, extracurricular activity office, student office work together and understand what do we mean by employability skills. And then we engaged in a list of consultation with our program advisory board, which is a representation of the market sides. So those are corporate, those are reference bodies in a different fields and specialization, in order to make sure that the skills we are defining or identifying are what they want to. And mainly, we get the students on board. Students now understand why a certain activity is happening on the course beyond the acquisition of a grade or a mark or an outcome, which is already there in all the educational program. They see really the impact of it. Let me pick an example: decision-making and capability to make a judgment, which is something we need in many program, law and other. One of the activities we introduced is the peer evaluation. Students evaluate their peer and they are challenged in that. That's making a judgment, right? Taking a decision to give a grade, to give a mark, to assign. So they get in that scenarios when they are really exposed at their level to really gain those skills. And currently, we are in a stage where we define a matrix of meeting the expectation, beyond the expectation, or exceed the expectation, and we link that to a set of workshops that we're gonna suggest to the students, professional certificates and other. And we are working with Skills Bahrain in order to agree on a standard definition of the skills, because someone might say communication, another one might say digital communication, and then we need to agree what does that mean. And this is the phase we are in now, in addition to the measurement, is to epurate and end up with a standardized definition of these 8 identified employability skills. And I want here to extend really deep thanks again to Stuart, who has been working with us for a couple of months, many months, and meeting the faculty member, discussing their proposal, etc. This was requiring like 4 to 5 months to see something mature coming out of it, and we are happy today to see it materializing. And the next step is really to get the statistical information about the measurement and to evaluate the effectiveness of the extracurricular activities that we are embedding and adding to these framework and to these employability skills. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Dr. Nabil. So yes, full disclosure, about 15 months ago, I was delighted to have the opportunity to go and work in Bahrain at Applied Science University. In fact, when I was there, we actually launched the updated version of the employability framework. So the very first university to see it live and to engage with it. So there's the full disclosure I'll give there. It's now time for questions and answers. Please do continue to post any in the chat, just why any more may come in. Bridie and Maura, I'm going to come to you first. And this first one is really around the different phases and pathways. So you've got your beginner all the way through, that advanced professional. How do you then tailor the support sessions for the different students?
Yeah, and I think that's probably you more, really, because you're more working one-to-one with the learner. I mean, I don't know if you want to come in here more, because you know how you would adapt accordingly to the person that's with you in the room.
Yeah, we would. I suppose when a client makes the appointment, we have that initial consultation to see, I suppose, are they right, are they to establish what they're looking for from the program as well, and to make sure that we are the right fit, and that they're the right fit for the program. So when I have that initial conversation, it becomes very clear then, because I suppose when those pathways were created, they were designed around very clear personas for the different stages someone is in their work life. So it's through that initial conversation, looking at their experience, their level of education, their aspirations within their career as well will tell a lot. And then together we kind of come to the right fit, the right program for that person to work on. So it's a consultation, really. That initial consultation brings us there.
Thanks, Moira. You gave some really good examples of the impact you'd made: improved retention, stronger leadership, increased productivity. Very interesting question around what is the level of resource needed for this? I know this was a funded project, wasn't it? So
yeah, a really good question, because we were funded by from the government, because that was all that agenda around employability and getting people to upskill and reskill, as you said. So we were really well funded, and we received that funding in 2020 until 2024. So in the final stages of the project, from August to the end of 24, we were looking at a commercial element of this business to see, would companies pay for this for their employees? employees. And we didn't get much success. We got some companies on board, but it wasn't enough to actually pay for the full service. So it's a really interesting one. Lucky enough, we got extended funding in December 24. So we're funded now again to December 26. But again, we're constantly looking at sustainability. Who is going to pay for the service? So yeah, it's a really good question.
Thank you, Bridie. And while we're on a roll with yourself and Maura, I have one final one before we go to a question for all, which is around the issue in relation to AI and assessment, and in terms of the employability, and I presume it's in relation to the profiles. But a colleague raises that there's a challenge around providing valid results for neurodiverse students, and is the diversity of the student cohort taken into account at all in relation to the micro-credential?
Yes, I mean, the platform that we use will have good accessibility features. So it is, that provision is taken now. I think it could be better, but it is taken into consideration. But it is something that we're constantly looking to improve and develop further.
Yeah, thank you, Bridie. A question to all. So, Bev, I'm going to come to you first to answer it, if that's okay. And this was a concept, a comment that was made. We're finding it very difficult to get students to engage with anything that isn't assessment driven. How do we get students to engage whilst also balance this with the subject-specific requirements, especially with accredited programs?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. If it's assessed, that's where you tend to get the most engagement. But what we're doing, I guess, an example of what we're doing at Aberystwyth is we're trying to map the employability journey and make it an integral part of what a degree is for students who come to Aberystwyth. So looking at levels 4, 5 and 6, we're working with course teams to map where different interactions may be able to take place through different modules, which allows avoids, in fact, repetition. So there's clear progression of that employability journey for that student, but then building in where careers either come in or have initiatives that students can engage in around that as well, and then building the wider opportunities with the SU, etc., around that as well. But keeping a very tight focus on curriculum, because we know that we have a very huge number of widening participation students. I'm sure that's similar for many of you, and quite often, for various reasons, they're unable to self-select into employability activities. So having it in bite-sized chunks in different ways and being able to have a visual of that journey for the student that's presented before they come, as soon as they come, and at various points throughout their time with us is a way that we're trying to address that more, so there is much more engagement. We also have things like KPI dashboards, etc., where we map engagement levels and work very closely with departments that maybe aren't quite reaching the engagement that they'd like to, etc. But yeah, from an overview perspective, that's how we're tackling it at Aberystwyth. Thank you.
Dr. Nabil.
Yeah, if I might say, we combine 2 or 3 strategies here. It's true that assessment-related element is something that the students look into first. So we have been first looking to some assessment and revise them to include a kind of activity. Let me give an example. There is a series of workshop here called Start Ahead, and it's organized by a third party that they presented for free to all the higher education universities here in Bahrain. And we noted that the level of participation of the student is low. So what we did, for example, we took the internship course and we make the participation to this as one of the prerequisite or 20% of the evaluation of your internship report. So sometimes you need to look smartly to the assessment tools you have. This is number 1. Number 2, something where the students gonna really engage is if they have fun. Right? If you present to the students something from the perspective, look, guys, today we're gonna play a game together, and I do this in my lectures, for example, for this, and I say, look, we're gonna play a game together, and I'm not sure if at the end of the day you're gonna invite each other to a coffee, and the game is that you're gonna assess each other on this aspect or on that aspect, you know, and that's a way when I'm seeing how they take decision. But I'm telling them, look, there is something in the game. I'm gonna play evil there, and they're gonna ask you what was the rationale of your evaluation. And now, you know what? If you fail to give me the rationale, I will deduct the same mark you gave to your colleagues from your mark. Of course, I'm not doing it at the end, but it's a way to get them interested in a fun, digital way. So I would say finding a way to get the interest of the students. Of course, added to that, we try to do a lot of things outside the classroom. Anything which is outside the classroom, we are noticing. On the field trip, you can do a lot of things. When you take the students, for example, this morning we had a group of students visiting a place and then collecting emotional pictures to submit it to an AI algorithm to see how is. And so the bad thing is if you ask them from the beginning, do the AI algorithm and go and chime it here and there, and they want to see your mathematical skills and critical analytic skills on the mathematical problem, they will not really engage in the same way. When they are taking it, let's see if Stuart's face is more expressive and AI managed to analyze it better than Nabil's face, for example. So I think getting the interest of the student from the amazing side, from the side that they catch up to it, whether it's assessment or not, is the right strategy to get the students. But I have to admit, it's not usually easy. It does not work in all time, but that's the path I think we need to keep pushing on for.
Thank you, Dr. Nabil. I think one thing in terms of context for colleagues as well, I mean, Applied Science University, there is a clue in the name there, and a prerequisite of all their programs is a placement. All the work is applied, and the work they've undertaken is to ensure that employability is inescapable. So it's actually embedded throughout, and I think that's one way which you can help capture some of this as well. Bridie and Maura, I'm going to give you the last word because I know how much you like going last, Bridie. Where do you think we are in terms of engaging students? How have you found the uptake?
Yeah, I know, Stuart, as part of our project with yourself and Advance HE, we had the internal part, as you know, and what I presented there was very much this external part that was informed by a framework. I just want to say that because the work that we did and that you collaborated with our lecturers and teaching staff in terms of that embedding employability for internally within the university was really powerful. And, I think, I think there's a huge amount happening now in that space in terms of how they're looking at employability, and I think that was really useful in terms of that engagement. I just want to say that I think the challenges that we had was the fact that we were coming together as this new university, so we were still putting in place people within faculty and everything else. But yeah, I think it's positive. I think it's moving along slowly. We've developed an employability statement now for the university, so that's recognised. So I think it's going to be very positive. I think we're different in Ireland actually, that we don't have that huge emphasis around KPIs and employability, like for example that exists in the UK, and that can be a challenge for us in the university in getting, as the academic staff buy-in and management buy-in in terms of the importance of the student experience and employability. So, how very often if government is looking for these KPIs and these results, that gives us a bit more power internally within the university to make change. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, Stuart, but
yeah, no, absolutely, Bridie. And as I say, look, if there was an easy way to do any of this, we'd all be doing it. So we know that we know this is a complex and wicked problem. But I think there's been some really, really fabulous ways of engaging with it and looking at it, and actually around the collaboration. And Bev's spoken about the work being undertaken in Wales in terms of the language. We've heard Dr. Nabil say how important it is to have that understanding of that language. One of the task and finish groups is specifically looking at how employers use the same language. So there's lots, and from that there will be a publication that will be shared much wider across the sector as well. So collaborating and learning from each other is really, really important. We are at an end. It leads me to thank all colleagues for sharing your experience and your engagement with the framework, and some ideas for others to think about it. You will have my presentation alongside with colleagues as well. But just to say, there are ways that Advance HE can support you. You can read these and find these out for yourself. But what I did want to share, please do follow our podcast series as well. And what I did want to share is the upcoming webinar on our inclusive learning and teaching. We've spoken a lot about inclusivity here today. It's been a theme in the questions. It's been a theme in the chat. Please do come and find out how the framework can influence your work across all learning and teaching. So yes, we shall leave it there. Thank you, colleagues, so much for your time, your efforts, giving up your time freely. I wish you all the very best. It's been brilliant to see you all, and whether it's morning, noon or night, aware that we've got colleagues dialing in from different time zones, I wish you well for the day. Thank you ever so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Bye-bye.